You and he were buddies, weren't you?
Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Cult Classic Society, the podcast where we talk about all things spooky and mysterious and just everything that I want to talk about, to be honest. Bobby's just here to just come along for the ride. But,
Hey,
say hey,
I love
Bobby.
I love the Twilight Zone.
Well, Bobby, I think we both want to discuss the big important thing that happened with us this weekend.
Yes, we do. Michael Oku lost the Rev Pro British Heavyweight title.
Yeah, and he didn't appear at Wembley, the bastard.
I know, son of a bitch. Making me look like a fool.
Of course, we are talking about All In. We went All In for 2 years in a row.
Yes, and I'll be honest, the customer setup makes me not want to go for a third time, and I'll... Do you want me to elaborate what I mean by this?
Was your big screen right behind you?
Yes, it was. Because I was on the floor level, but didn't have a fucking screen in front of me. So you know what I didn't do, Tim? Sit in my fucking seat. I went and stood to the side, and they had security guards telling me I had to move the entire time. And I was like, nope. And me and my wife and my cousin and my friend, we were just like, no, we're not moving. We can't see over there. And we just stood where we weren't supposed to and watched the show. We actually stood closer than our seats were, to be fair. And we got to the Ospreay MJF match, which was, 2/3 of the way through the show, before they really insisted on us moving. And then we just went and sat somewhere else.
Fair enough, because I was in the in section 2, so the second floor, and the big screen was literally right behind me. So every time I wanted to watch story moments, I had to turn around like that.
We could see everyone in your section turning their heads to look at that screen. In fact, the back row of the floor were doing it.
Yeah, I saw that when I was looking down at everyone.
Is this what has inspired your haircut? Is this your Will Ospreay haircut?
No. This is my get my life in order haircut.
It's gonna take more than a haircut for you, bro.
That's what I'm growing the facial hair to.
You're gonna go live in the woods?
No, not yet.
Or are you gonna sit in a dark room with a typewriter and talk out loud as you spin through some kind of cosmos?
As I enter my dark place.
Yes.
And that's how we bring it back to this. We are talking about Garth
I am a
Marenghi's
professional,
Darkplace.
Tim. I am a professional. I will get this shit back on topic.
So you don't want to say what your favourite match of the night was?
Oh, Danielson and Swerve.
Yeah. What else could it be?
I mean, Ospreay and MJF was very good. We were stood very close for the trios ladder match. That was awesome too.
Watching Christian Cage run away like a coward.
Watching my boy strategize. You wash your mouth out, you son of a bitch.
I will say I laughed like a maniac when he won the gauntlet match.
Yeah, my wife didn't find it as funny because she hates him, but I fucking love Christian. I should have worn my Christian shirt. Right, well, yes. I tried to get us back on topic and you pulled it away.
Garth Marenghi's Darkplace. So you said when we introduced it at the end of the last episode, you only had watched clips of it or just watched bits? You've heard of it?
Yeah, just bits. Yeah. I used to work in a place full of nerds, and on their lunch break, sometimes they'd be watching it in the staff room. So I'd caught bits here and there.
So Garth Marenghi's Darkplace. It was a show written in the 80s by one Garth Marenghi. It was produced by his publisher Dean Lerner. Unfortunately, the studios just thought it was too radical for television, so it was just thrown away to the depths, never to be seen again. Until 2004, when Channel 4 went through a big entertainment drought. So they came crawling back to Garth and asked him, can we have the show back on? He's like, certainly, but he wanted to put in some interviews there. What we have here today are 4 of the 6 episodes that were released.
Are you going to break the fourth wall here and say that this is a show within a show?
No. Damn it,
it was,
kayfabe, Bobby.
so it was all written and produced and directed in the early 2000s, pretending to be a show in the 80s.
Yes. So to break kayfabe, this was written by Matthew Holmes and Richard Ayoade.
Fucking love Richard Ayoade.
This was originally based on a stage play that they actually did for Edinburgh Fringe.
Love the Fringe.
Where
Been there multiple times.
I've actually never been. I really want to go because, see a lot of up and coming comedians.
Yeah, we saw some really great people, actually. There's a thing called the Free Fringe, where you kind of pay what you thought the show was worth at the end. And we've learned a lot of comedians from there, including one of our favourites, who is now kind of a TV regular, who kind of blew up. But that first Edinburgh me and my wife went to together, we saw Ishan Akbar.
Oh, nice.
And it was in a really small room. His show was called Profit Like It's Hot. It was brilliant. And there's a guy called Peter Brush we saw, who was awesome. I don't even know if he's still doing stand-up, but we saw him in 2019, I want to say. If I remember rightly. Or 2018 it might have been. But yeah, we've seen some great movies. We also saw one guy who was so fucking awful that people were walking out. And including us, we walked out before the end as well. I can't remember his name, but the show was called Everyone's a Cunt. Which is, you can see why we thought it would be good. But it wasn't. He did that thing that some comedians do where instead of actually telling jokes, they just say horrible things. And it's fine to say horrible things if you could form it into a cohesive joke with a punchline. And he just couldn't. He was just stood there. What was that prick's name? Oh, you know what? I'm not going to give him any fucking thingy.
Was it Ricky Gervais?
No, a different prick. That prick, I'd remember his name.
But yes, this is set in... So this was based off a play. It was then brought to TV. And the whole joke of it is that it's a poorly made TV show that takes itself seriously. But obviously, the whole thing is just one massive meta joke.
Yeah, it's clearly inspired by kind of those 80s and 90s like daytime dramas in America.
Yeah.
Because it's very, considering it's all British actors, clearly supposed to be set in Britain, I suppose.
It's set in Romford.
Romford, there you go. Well, they're really near where I live, or we live, should I say. It's so Americanized.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And you know what else? There's a couple of things that I, like, we'll go through it. There's a couple of things I think it really takes inspiration from. One is the Twilight Zone. Fucking 100%. That's why I mentioned it at the top. It feels like in his head when he was writing it, he's like, you know what, I'm going to do like the Twilight Zone, but silly. And instead of different stories each episode, it'll be a continuation story, like of same characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also reminds me of The Room. He probably did use The Room as inspiration, to be fair. Like a writer and director that takes himself far too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also got it's also clearly so like very like bad Stephen King.
Oh yeah.
Like your Children of the Corn, your Sleepwalkers, like the really bad cheesy stuff.
The Cheesy King, yeah.
Yeah. But we start with the first episode, Once Upon a Beginning. And as every episode does, it begins with Garth reading one of his many, many books. And one of the most like iconic bits is this one. His first episode, he goes, blood, 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 and bits of sick.
It's like, he reminds me, there was a few people when I was at school who, the character reminds me, not the writing. Well, there was a few people when I was at school who thought they were very good at certain art forms, whether that was songwriting, whether it was writing, but they were all like deep or like serious, and their stuff was just fucking awful. And
yeah,
it feels like he knew some of these people at school as well.
Oh, absolutely. So as he says, Darkplace was made in the 80s, but now there's a content drought. They're going to screen the show. And one of the things he says, dim the lights or turn them off if you don't have dimmers.
I like that he also says this is the first time it's been shown in the UK. It was shown in Peru, however.
Yeah.
There's another note I got here. They also use the old, so obviously they're making it look like the 80s, so they use the old Channel 4 ident,
Yeah.
which is really cool. The one with just the coloured blocks that kind of spin a little bit, which they obviously haven't used for 20, well, at the minute, over 20 years, but then they probably hadn't used it for at least kind of 5 or 10.
Yeah. So it hit you into nostalgia?
Yeah, kinda. I was definitely watching Channel 4 in the 90s when they used to just use that ident.
So we have the lovely, like, just synth intro where he's like, "My name's Garth Marenghi, horror writer, actor, dreamweaver, and welcome to my dark place."
You love this kind of spoof shit, don't you? This kind of...
I love it when people make fun of, like, just movies and TVs as a medium, because I think people don't realize it's really hard. I mean, it's really easy to get it wrong.
Mm.
And there's so many people who like make really just like bland products, but because they're so up their own arse, they don't see that. So I just like it when they go, "We're just gonna like just make fun of that whole thing as a concept."
Yeah, I get you. And I think on the other one, we've already we're less than 10 minutes into this podcast, or maybe around 10 minutes, and I think I've already referenced things that have clearly inspired this. Another thing I think has clearly inspired this is one of your favourites, which is David Lynch. Twin Peaks. I think there's a heavy influence of that.
Oh yeah, like I mean, again, say what you want about David Lynch, he is quite pretentious. So
yes, he is.
So we arrive in the Darkplace hospital. We get introduced to Liz Asher, played by Madeline Wall, played by Alice Lowe.
Oh, this meta played by. Let's go.
Oh, I'm gonna keep doing it.
I'll be honest. A lot of my notes just have the actors' real names. So.
When she walks into the hospital and a stagehand just throws the ginger cat in.
I love this whole first scene where she comes in and just like, "I'm here to apply for a job."
Yeah. And what's funny is that the cat, like, it's Matt Berry's voice, and it goes, "Just leave." It's just funny. That cat just told me just to leave. She goes up to the receptionist and introduces herself. Says she graduated from Harvard College, Yale, and she's here to become a doctor.
So much, yeah, American influence again. And we get a first appearance by a very young Matt Berry.
Who is he playing?
I know the character of a character's name. His name's Dr. Sanchez.
Played by Todd Rivers.
Sanch.
Yeah, Sanch. And I love, like, the first thing he says is, "I'm Dr. Sanchez. You're a woman."
Oh, then there's a bit where he says, she's like, "Is that a problem?" And he says, "Lots of skirt in this workplace," or something like that. That's a fucking hell.
They shake hands and just like immediately causes Sanchez to scream, and he like holds it for a minute. And
it's
she's
very
like flashes of things that are happening in the hospital.
This felt like very Twin Peaks or Evil Dead or something like that. Like, it's like, this is pastiching stuff that you love, I swear. Yeah. As well as the like American daytime dramas, it's also doing that stuff.
The cheesy horror stuff and everything.
Right up your fucking street, innit?
Liz faints onto the floor and the receptionist goes, "Are you okay?" She's like, "No, not really."
In like the worst acted line you've ever seen.
And then we like cut straight to like some of the interviews from Garth, and the first thing he says is, "I'm one of the few people you've met that has written more books than they've read." That
line got me. Oh, that was so funny.
Like, it just like sums up the entirety of what this show is.
You know, like when someone goes off on like a rant on social media, that's what he reminds me of. Like, you've written 1,000 words there, but you've never read a fucking book, have you?
Yeah. You spend a lot of time in the IWC. You see a lot of people act this way.
We can all just like everything, or like no, don't care.
No, Bobby. You can only like one promotion.
Swivel.
Then we also get introduced to Dean Lerner, played by Richard Ayoade. And he... What are you going to say?
Isn't the other character called like Thornton Reed? Is that
The
right?
character he plays is Fortin Reed, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I've got that name down. I get like the name of the actors within the universe. I haven't got their names down.
So I have the DVD here,
Of course
and
you do.
on the back, one of the lights to show, but the casting is actually the character's name as the character they're playing.
Of course it is. That would be a miss if they didn't do that.
And even like on the front, it's like produced by Dean VD, so Dean Lerner's video department. So then we get introduced to Rick Douglas, who talks about being a doctor. He's like, some skirt had a little accident in the reception, and I had to go kiss her better.
The dialogue, it feels like, again, I keep comparing it to things because it is pastiching things. It feels like, like a 70s or 80s or even like something that we've done before, like Statch. It feels like that kind of thing, like a geezer.
Yeah, and it's like, and obviously, like, because it's like based in the 80s, it's like horribly sexist.
Oh, unbelievably sexist.
Like, we'll get into the next episode where it just ramps it up for the entire episode.
Oh yeah, they knew what there's no subtlety in the second episode.
Yeah. But so Rick goes into the child sick ward, and I don't know why the child is in the sick ward, because Rick is said he's there to look after his dad.
Oh, it's because Garth Marenghi wrote it.
Yeah. And he says to the child, like, we're doing all we can, but I'm not Jesus Christ. And then the kid goes, they work you too hard here. You deserve to be paid a hero's wage. And then as he leaves, he salutes the kid. And there's just a VO where he goes, don't do drugs.
Yes, like, I love some of the cheesy, like, post-recording dub lines they put in on purpose. And, like, it's almost done like the editor doesn't know what they're doing, because, like, the music will be there, like a bass music, and then it just cuts out for this DR line.
Yeah. They proper, like, ADR everything.
Yeah.
Then this is when we get introduced to Fortune Reed, being played by Dean, and they first stress the fact that Dean is not an actor, and he says, "I'm not an actor." And I told Garth this. He says, "I don't want you to act. I want you to show the truth." So here is Dean Lerner playing Fortune Reed, showing the truth, and it's just him looking down the barrel of the camera, just rambling his lines off.
You know what? Good actors acting bad is harder than getting a good performance out of them.
Yeah.
Like, purposely trying to act bad.
Yeah. Like, a bad actor can't act bad because, you can't fake it.
Yeah. But, like, getting a good actor to pretend they're acting badly, it's renowned for being difficult.
Yeah, because you're basically having to, like, trick yourself into throwing out every technique you've learned.
Yeah. I love this scene in the office. And I've just got them listed as Richard and Matt here, but Sanch and Reed, they list off a bunch of idioms about Garth. Like,
yeah.
It's like he's got a checklist of, like, little sayings he wanted to, like, squeeze in about this character that he's playing.
Yeah.
Because Thornton starts is like, I hope he heeds my words about dealing with this in an orthodox manner. Then Sanchez is like, he will, but he's the best damn doctor of the wing, or any other wing for that matter. He's a wild card, but I'm glad he's in our deck. Let's hope he plays a fair hand. He'll come up trumps, but not if there's a joker in the pack.
Just they go back and forth. And what I love, because in universe, it's Garth Marenghi just writing, like, positive things about himself, like how great he is.
It's proper. I've got this later. I can't remember where I've written it, but I'll bring it up now. It's proper, like, hero complex stuff.
Yeah.
Like, for himself. It's so funny.
It's very Tommy Wiseau in The Room, where he's like, Johnny's an amazing guy. He works so hard for you. You got a promotion at the bank because he loves you.
So good. I promise we will cover The Room at some point.
One day. So Rick finally meets Liz, and this is when we discover that Liz has latent psychic abilities. And there's a bit when he she says, okay, stop being sarcastic. And he goes, maybe if everyone who's been close to you had died, you'd be sarcastic too.
It's proper hammy, isn't it? Then there's also a bit where they like edit the dialogue super quick to make it even hammier.
So he goes, oh, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. And he goes, I took her to the staff room where the coffee's free. So they discuss.
I was going to say, this is where she actually starts responding to his thoughts, vocally. Yeah. A bit like that Kenan and Kel episode we watched for the last show. The Kenan and Kel skit we watched for the last episode.
So she mentions 213, and that's where Larry is. And that's when he thinks about it. She goes, who's Larry? So he explains how he used to work in the hospital with Rick. And they just decided to open the gates of hell in the canteen. But as they opened the gates, Rick went to make a Coke float. And then Larry basically got possessed by all the demons.
It's so this is where the Twilight Zone stuff really starts coming in.
Yeah.
Because each of these has an individual story. If you just changed who the characters are and changed the setting from a hospital, you've got different stories that you could easily be like Twilight Zone, yeah.
It's just the idea that like he's like made it all happen to this one guy.
Yeah. He's a very bad friend, really.
Oh yeah. And what I love, like halfway through the monologue, he decides he needs to have a shower and he comes out in this like towel robe. But it's like so tiny, like it proper like this goes all, it leaves nothing to the imagination, really.
Yeah, he does. He just stops mid monologue, doesn't he? He goes, I need to shower. And then they're just waiting outside the shower room for him. They do some dodgy ADR here again that doesn't mix well at all, but that was obviously on purpose. It's so funny.
Yeah. So Rick and Sanj, they go to 213, and possibly like one of the best like lines in the show is there where Sanj goes, you and he were buddies, weren't you? Listen, when I first joined this hospital, I was strictly solo. You were the real first buddy I ever had. But if you and he wish to be best buddies again, I won't stand in your way. And it's clearly overdubbed as well.
Yeah, it's so funny. This is, you kind of jumped over one of my favourite lines there as well. Garth hires Liz to help him investigate and says he'll pay her to keep it professional. And he says that she can have pocket money for clothes and makeup.
Yeah. Again, just completely sexist.
Fucking so horrible. But for like putting the hitting the nail on the head for the kind of pastiching those sexist things.
Yeah.
The 70s and 80s stuff.
So Rick goes into Larry's room and like Larry's just there and he just then explodes.
And what's the first thing Garth asks? Are you all right? And it's just his head on the floor. He's like, I think I'm going to die. And he's like, I've got to stop you bleeding. It's like, it's just a head. How is it talking?
And then he's like, you have to kill me. And so he just grabs a random shovel that was in the room and just like whacks him like he's playing golf.
So stupid.
And the thing's like they're both screaming as they do it.
I love that when he hits it, it's clearly a dummy's head. And obviously the guy speaking, they've done like a head through the floor shot.
Yeah.
To make it the head, look like it's separated. Then it's clearly a dummy head. And then the dummy head clearly comes back.
Yeah.
And then Sanj comes in, he says, I'll get a mop.
And then we cut to the interview and Garth goes, I've never exploded, but I know what it feels like. Trust me, I just know. And
then Richard Iodi's character, I don't know what the actor's name is. You
Dean.
You just put it in post. Every time I say Richard Iodi or whatever, you just like dub it in with your voice.
Dean.
He says it's clear that someone close to Garth has exploded for real. He brought that to the scene.
He also says there was tears on set. Not Garth. He stays strong for the crew, but I wept. So they're all arguing outside, and I love how there's a bit where like that Fortune's going to the thing like, I told him not to go in there. I'm gonna go and tell him that. Walks over. I told you not to go in there. What do you think you were doing?
And we get a line from Matt Berry where he says, "Is this hospital called St. Croc of Shit?"
Yeah. And I love how there's a cut during like that Fortin's monologue where he's like just holding a cup there, cuts, he's holding the shovel.
Apparently they need to burn the rest of the body to close the gates of hell.
But Fortin's refusing to have that happen. It cuts to Rick in a car and he goes, "I went to a drive to clear my head. That's why I'm now in a car."
And you get the really bad kind of... It feels like they've just got a black curtain behind him that they're like wobbling. Yeah. And he's in basically a golf cart as well.
Yeah. So they all go to Larry's funeral and Garth says to Liz, "I'm window shopping and there's a half-price sale on weird."
And it's another one of those lines that he thinks sounds really cool. There's just before that, there's like a needlessly long scene of Garth walking into the graveyard. Yeah. And looking at it retrospectively for one of the talking heads they do in a later episode, I'm like, oh, this is another one of those, is it?
Yeah.
Where they're trying to kill time, trying to fill out the episode.
So as
the tombstones wobble as well, sorry, it's so good.
And as the priest is just, giving the typical speech, the coffin starts wobbling and Larry just pops out and the priest just legs it.
We can't look over who plays the vicar.
Who's the vicar?
It's Julian Barrett from the Mighty Boosh.
I forget. You know what? I noted it down in a later episode.
Yeah, so in the other episode,
because there's another Mighty Boosh character in that one.
Yes, actor. Yeah.
Noel's a character in himself.
Garth pulls out a gun, and I think it's Larry's mum gets in the way, and he just shoots through her.
What I love is there's an ADR of Todd going, "That's the mother, Rick."
And then we just cut to Richard Iwodi. He's just got a shotgun, and he's just blasting left and right, like camera left, camera right, with nothing else on the screen. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Then Rick pulls out a flamethrower. He just starts burning the body.
And then he says...
Then there's another ADR line of Todd just going, "Well, that'll stop him."
And then straight after that scene, he's like, "I hate using guns. I see the character you're trying to portray while you want to use cool guns."
Yeah. Also, I love how, again, Fortin's doing the thing where he's talking to Larry's mum, going, "It turns out he was right about this. I'm going to go over and tell him that." "You were right. Good job."
Did you notice what he does when he's still in the background, though?
What, when he hugs Liz and just grabs her ass?
Yes. I obviously Richard Ayoade, when he's on panel shows, puts on a bit of a character.
Yeah.
But I feel like that character is based in like a grain of truth. And I wonder how awkward he felt about doing that bit.
But because considering him and Matthew Holmes wrote it together,
yeah, I
bet he just was all up for it.
True.
So Garth is on the roof, and at the end of every episode, he does a little monologue. He says, "The doors of Darkplace were open. Not the literal doors to the building, most of which were closed, but evil doors, dark doors, doors to the beyond. Doors that were hard to shut because they were abstract and didn't have handles. They were more like portals, really. From this day on, I'd have to fight these forces of darkness and deal with the burden of day-to-day admin."
It's so Tommy Wiseau, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
It's like they got together and tried to write Twin Peaks.
Oh, yeah. And then just a final bit of the interview where they say, "We don't believe in harming animals on set. That's why I feel really bad about the cat we killed."
Oh, it's so horrible. Such a downer of a last line to finish on.
But it's also like, when? Because they only had the cat in the opening.
It must have been that one.
So, what did you think of the first episode?
It is very funny. I can see why you like it. I'll be honest with you, it's not, this kind of comedy isn't my usual cup of tea.
Yeah.
And not that I don't like it, it's just not my preferred kind of thing. But I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. Like this, yeah. If you let me pick between a regular sitcom, a mockumentary like The Office, and then kind of a total spoof type thing. The spoof would be like last on my list of the kind of sitcoms.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it.
No, I'm glad to hear, because really when I was like coming to pick the show, it was either going to be this or IT Crowd. And I kind of knew you already watched IT Crowd, so...
I've watched that back to front more than once.
So now we're going to move on to Hell Hath Fury. And we already know what the end line of that quote means, so we can have a little inkling of what this episode's about. Garth starts his next book talking about maggots. He says the word maggots 7 times. And how...
He also says that this is in Leytonstone, which is very close to where we live.
I think that's the Alfred Hitchcock reference, because Alfred Hitchcock was born in Leytonstone.
Fair enough.
He says this show could have changed the world, because he wanted to see a future where people could harness telekinetic powers.
What I love is he says television was up cack alley, and the inside of my head was the only way. It was its only ticket out. It's like, yeah, you self-aggrandizing prick.
Yeah. And then he asks us to enjoy what points the way forward for humanity.
He predicted that the world's first female mechanic would be around in 2040.
It's honestly insane.
I love the establishing shot we jumped to with the hospital, because it's clearly like a really shit fucking model.
Yeah.
It's like he zooms in and everything's like slightly misshapen and slightly out of proportion.
Yeah, the windows are like slightly curved and everything. So they're all in the kitchen and they're waiting for food, and you get introduced to the temp, and the poor framing of like how he's introduced, because let's see if I can no, because I'm too zoomed in. I was gonna try it, but like it's like zoomed out to a mid shot, and his head like starts here and ends here. So
yeah, hang on. I've got this. Mine's on a wire. Let me try it. Like that, right?
No, even closer. You've got to bring your head down. Wait, it's kind of like this. It's like that. So it's like so much like dead space above.
Oh yeah, I've actually written a note about that. Yeah, sorry, I remember what you mean now. The just. It's not too close, is it? But it's like poorly framed.
Yeah, it's like a mid shot, but they framed it with just his head.
So funny.
And did you? Well, I guess you recognise the cameo of who the chef was.
Yeah, Stephen Merchant.
Yeah, so this was just post Office. Actually,
the most talented writer on the Office team.
Yes. I'm not going to argue there. And the funniest member of the Ricky Gervais show.
I've never listened to it. I couldn't put myself through that.
During my like pre-teens years, I listened to it. It was like free on iTunes.
You little edgelord. You little edgelord, were you?
I don't know. I hated Ricky Gervais on it. Like,
I listened to the Mark Hoppers podcast. Hi, my name is Mark. When podcasts were like first a thing, and that was about it.
Oh, then you're not going to like when Ricky Gervais is like, we were pioneers. We started the podcast revolution.
Please.
Yeah. So,
Rick is such a... Garth's character is such an arsehole here. He like slaps Liz trays out of her hand.
Yeah.
Because he's annoyed because he's getting food. And she's like, it was my fault. And then the chef comes along, Stephen Merchant, and does it to her as well.
Yeah, he's like, women like you is the reason the chicken is late. And then he does like this speed monologue where he's like, God, they want to make the chicken, I'll make the chicken. The chicken's ready when I say it's ready.
And then she uses her psychic powers to kill him with a fork.
Like
a roasting fork.
Thing that he says?
No, what was it?
He goes, son of a bitch. And then goes to the interview, and Dean says, I call Garth the awesome worlds of horror, and not because of his weight.
Oh, I do love it when people are able to make fun of themselves.
Oh, yeah, it's great. So we get another intro monologue from Rick, where he goes, chef down, and no, it can't wait until morning.
He says, a paddle to the head and a fork where a fork don't fit.
So all the like main players, they're in Thornton's office, and like Rick enters the room. He goes, "Morning, all. Cheer up, Liz."
And she looks like full on like psychic evil powers now.
Yeah, and I love they're doing the fake laugh, and they go, "Ha ha 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 ha." Liz is just
And then they do like
shaking.
this really great / awful, but the same thing, forced perspective shot where Richard is towering over Garth because he's taller than him, but not that much.
Yeah. So Thornton tells Sanch and Rick to take the descent down to the basement and explore like who is attacking the chef, who attacked the chef. And she's like, "Me and Liz will stay in the office." And he's like, "God, I wish I was out there hitting the water with those young bucks, but I'm old, tired, spent, busted, rusted, stuck in a moldy office with just a moody woman for company."
He's such a prick. I like when they get down to the basement. The temp is just going, "Did you attack the chef? Did you attack the chef?" And it's just all he's asking them.
So, before that, though, we get like another interview, and like Garth explains like how he really is interested in telekinetic powers. So he established the Garth Marenghi Foundation to harness telekinetic powers in underprivileged kids.
What a waste of time and money.
And then Dean says, like, "Yeah, I got interested in it too. In fact, I learned how to hypnotize women, but I used that power responsibly."
Rapey. That is.
Yeah.
That is on the edge.
So as you said, the temp is asking people if they killed the chef. And there's a moment where like Sanch and Rick don't trust him and they think he's an android. So they say they might have to kill him.
Yeah, and where is it? I don't know. Yeah, so they think it's the temp, and then they overhear from someone else that there's like random flying objects.
Yeah. So Thornton gets a call on the phone, says, "Hello? Yes, thank you." So it's like, "Bye." And
They
that's
take.
when he said,
Sorry,
like, no, you.
They take the temp. This is where they take him to the basement. Sorry, and they find the dead security guard. And it turns out he's been there for ages. He's nothing to do with this. He got lost ages ago, and he had to eat his hand.
Yeah. And there's a bit where they they go around the corner, they look, and then Sanch just gets burnt by a floating iron.
Yeah, just right on the face, leaves a big red mark, and then the next scene it's gone.
Yeah.
And then Rick
Clearly
says,
they didn't have the budget.
Yeah, Rick says, "This is 2 words: telekinesis."
So they call up Thornton on the phone, explaining it, and Liz just has floating objects around her, and Thornton goes, "I think it's her time."
Oh, this is where, like, I mean, if it wasn't already on the nose, like they're literally spelling out what they're trying to say.
Yeah. So that's when she finally breaks the phone and she realizes it's him.
Rick says, if I felt down for 5 days a month, this hospital would be fucked.
So there's a bit where people outside are getting attacked by kitchen objects. It's like, "It's everything and the kitchen sink," and the guy goes, "Oh my god, the kitchen sink!"
Such an on the nose joke. They do that joke in an episode of Bottom, actually.
Yeah.
Where he's like,
"Did we watch the episode?"
I don't remember, but there's an episode where they go on holiday, and
then no, we haven't watched the episode.
Yeah, Richie actually packs the kitchen sink.
The kitchen sink is also the name of a wrestling move.
It is. Using that ass.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's the knee, isn't it? Sorry, it's the knee.
It's the knee. Yeah, when they bounce off the Irish rope.
I'm thinking of the hip attack, which is actually done with the ass.
Yeah. And I love there's like floating plates out the window, and you can easily see the string.
Yeah, we get a little talking head about that soon, don't we?
Yeah, in a bit. So one of the doctor. So actually, no. Next bit is it's in the basement. They go around the corner, and the whole trio gets attacked by cabinets.
Oh, is it not when before that we get Reed getting his shotgun out and starts shooting through the window before Liz traps him behind his desk as well?
Yeah.
So he starts, like, there's the plates, like you said, there's the kitchen equipment, and he just starts shooting
them,
like fucking clay pigeon shooting.
Yeah.
He loves that shotgun.
And I love it. So then one of the doctors who played the receptionist in the last episode goes to Reed's office, and all he says, "No, Liz, no, don't attack me."
The filing, like you said, the filing cabinets start attacking the guys in the basement.
Yeah,
And another doctor tries to help them, but he gets chased by a stapler.
yeah. He gets clearly sits on a string.
So funny.
And I love it because he gets to the phone and he goes, get me Rick Douglas. Yes, I'll hold. So then it cuts back down to the basement and Sanj gets ready to fight the iron that burned his face.
Yeah,
and he just pulls out a gun.
And the burn's gone.
Yeah. So he just pulls out a gun, shoots it, Indiana Jones style.
Yeah.
But then the gun turns on him.
And he gets another gun out of his sock.
Shoots that. And then that gun turns on him.
Yeah, so he shoots a gun for the other gun to turn. Yeah, it's so good. Why they've got so many guns in a UK hospital? It's so perplexing. It's an alternate reality where guns became like a thing like they did in America.
Yeah. So we cut to the interview. Garth says, in times of conflict, when you're up against an aggressor, be he human, be he human, inhuman, whoever he be, he's often both though. And then this is when Dean mentions you're looking at the wires. And he says, if you're looking at the wires, you're ignoring the story. You don't go to a puppet show and watch the wires.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the artistic integrity of a puppet show, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Rick takes like a 2-second phone call and then gives like a 20 to 30-second explanation about it. He's like, hello, okay, and then hangs up. And he goes on, he's like, does a full-on monologue about what happened on the phone.
Yeah. So Sanj gets cornered by cutlery. He gets cornered by a whisk, a tin open, a spatula, and then the whisk immediately just gets him in the leg.
Yeah, the whisk took him down. Tim, that was whiskey. Comedy, folks. Comedy.
Comedy's meant to be good.
So a comeback, so that was awful. Come on.
You know what, fair. So Rick and the temp are the last ones. So Rick is like, you know what, I'm going to deal with this by myself. So he runs in slow motion. And I don't mean that the footage is slowed down. I mean he physically runs in slow motion.
Yeah, and then the temp gets ready and does it as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then we cut to a talking head explaining that the episodes were running up to 8 minutes under, so they had to... They said anything that didn't have dialogue was considered to be slow motion.
Yeah. So we get a nice little monologue from Rick as he's running, and he goes, I ran the only way I knew how, by placing one leg in front of the other in quick succession.
That way of running.
He still runs. He's like, Liz was turning my own stationery against me. Ironic, all this paper being thrown at me meant more paperwork. Sorry, I was doing an Andy Q impersonation there.
Oh, don't. Hey, I think fairly soon a Budgeons and Dragons episode we recorded like nearly a year ago is coming out, and you can hear Amira doing an Andy Q impersonation.
Wasn't that done in August last year?
Yeah, something like that. They record that far in advance.
Oh god. I mean, it's impressive,
Yeah. We wouldn't know anything about that. We used to record in advance, and now we're just like on the fucking wire every fucking show. To give you an insight, this is the best we've done for fucking ages, and we're still like 2 weeks. Okay, that's a decent-ish window, but we used to have like 6, 7, 8 weeks sometimes.
It's because to pull the curtain back when this used to be audio only, we would be in the same room as each other, so we can crank out 2 episodes at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is why you always hear me tired in the later episodes, because the monster had worn off.
Yeah, that's why they were terrible when he was presenting the second episode. I mean, Jesus Christ.
But But now, obviously, we do a video only, and up until recently, we decided to do one episode at a time because, in case you didn't watch the recent episodes, Bobby's now a father, so these recording sessions are getting harder to plan.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So we're doing one each, which has led to it getting very close to the wire, including the Keenan and Kel episode, which Bobby had 5 days to edit.
I did it. I did it. I've got one.
Spoiler alert, we have the next episode scheduled already for 3 days from now because we're that prepared.
Hey, Tim, all I've got to say is, it was me, Tim. I edited the podcast. It was me. Yeah, enjoy that back reference.
So, back to Rick running. He runs, he sees Liz in the corner, and the first thing he says is, "Liz, hide your shame."
Yeah, she's like floating up in the air, and he like looks up her skirt. It's so
like, the way she's in the corner and floats around, like spins, it gave me Evil Dead vibes, like original Evil Dead.
This is inspired by the Evil Dead, this bit, 100%. She's gone full... I've written here in my notes, she has gone full Evil Dead.
She attacks Rick with a fire extinguisher, which is him just wrestling with it.
The scenes where he wrestles the fire extinguisher and Matt Berry wrestles the bin are so funny. Because they're literally just grown men writhing on the floor, passing this big object in their own hands, like...
Yeah. The temp shows up, he's ready to fight Liz, and he just gets stabbed with a bunch of screwdrivers.
Oh man, he gets shanked prison style, but with psychic powers.
And as it's happening, the temp is screaming, Rick is screaming, Liz is screaming, they're all screaming.
Rick stops Liz finally by launching a fire extinguisher off of her head.
Yeah, she just drops.
We get this cheesy Hollywood death scene for the temp, where he explains that his name is Clive, but he has an American accent because he like was brought up in like a British colony. So, okay,
yeah, he was brought up in Bermuda.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's like, we had so much to teach each other. Like, we were busting each other's balls. And then he goes to him, "I'm gonna miss your balls."
He says, "I missed a file to file." And Rick's like, "I'll have Liz do it in the morning." It's
like, look, as he says, it's the least she can do considering the circumstances.
It's still like, yeah, first thing in the morning, she's back on admin work. She's killed a load of people, but she's back on admin work.
So Rick breaks down, like he's stumbling up, and he cuts twice and something goes, strips down. So it cuts to the next day. Liz apologizes. Thanks, Sanch, for giving her a lobotomy.
It removes the powers, apparently.
And then, like, Rick is, like, still upset. It's like, I wish that Clive knew how much that he taught me. And Thornton goes, if he had any breath left in his body, he would have used it to thank you.
What I love is, at the same time he's lamenting the death, Reed says, "We could get another temp."
Yeah.
So cold.
And then they're like, who wants a drink? And Liz goes, as long as it's not a screwdriver.
And they all fucking laugh.
And then Fortune goes, yeah, I'd prefer a beer. Ha ha ha.
Rick is on the rooftop, like you said, he ends every episode with, and he says, "I guess I have to be nice to Liz. Tell her that she lost some weight or her hair looks nice."
Depending on what seemed most plausible.
I was like, oh, fucking hell. This is what grew a generation of neckbeards, this kind of thing.
Honestly. But, yeah. That episode is just... I think if it took itself really seriously, it would be horribly offensive. But because it's, like, self-aware that, like, every, like, male character in the show, like, both the actors who play them and the characters that are playing are all misogynist.
Oh, it's a pastiche. It's a total pastiche of kind of the, like you said, the misogynistic kind of comedy and drama that used to play out on TV and in real life. And still does in some stuff.
So we move on to episode 4, The Apes of Wrath. Clearly inspired by The Grapes of Wrath, the one of the best Simpsons episodes of all time.
Yeah, the Simpsons episode. Yes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So Garth starts the episode by going, "Greetings, traveller. Who am I? Perhaps you met me twixt sleep and wake in the penumbra of uncertainty you call unconsciousness. Or perhaps you met me at a book signing." Fun
He
fact, I have met Garth Marenghi
in character.
in character.
Oh, amazing! How was that?
So, it was hilarious. So it was back in 2022. He had actually written a new book in character, and he did like a tour about it. In fact, the Wrestle Talk lads were there. So he was being interviewed, and there was a moment when the interviewer, like, she clearly wasn't prepared for how he was going to respond to these questions. She asks him, "So who inspired you growing up as an author?" And he goes, "Me from the future. I think my insane writing ability was so good, it transcended time and went back to me and influenced my writing."
He's so fucking full of it, isn't he?
He is, but it's great.
This whole thing he talks about, the kind of section where he's still in his house. He says, writing's about what ifs. What if a rat could drive a bus? And I can't deal with what if at the minute, because obviously we had Marvel What If on Disney, and it was very good, enjoyable. And there's been rumours of Star Wars What If. And I am like, no, it'll be fucking amazing. Like, if they do it as well as they did the Marvel one, I'm in. I want to see these kind of busted world theories where Luke fucks up blowing up the Death Star. Let's do this.
That's it. Like, I always want, like, if they're gonna do it, like, what if I want them to go like fully like overboard with it, right? I want them it to be like worst possible outcomes.
There are full on basically what if comic books of Star Wars already.
Yeah.
So there is one that's like, what would the Empire Strikes Back be if Luke missed the Death Star?
Yeah.
What if Luke had joined Palpatine? Yeah. There's all those. There's like 3 of them. They're graphic novels that they're basically redos of the movies with if some like a certain incident had changed.
There's also like the ones that are based off like the Star Wars Force Unleashed games, because it's like, what if like Starkiller was there on like he was actually involved in the plot line of like A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah, I love those games.
Oh, they were fantastic.
Underrated games.
But so as you were mentioning about the what ifs about rats, like, now I won't tell you which what if this is, but it's basically along the same lines but with a different animal. Without giving too much away, think Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, giving the entire thing away.
So also in these talking heads we'll have Todd Rivers in it, so we actually get to interact with more of the characters.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that after those first 2 of only having the 2 Richard Ayoade and Garth Marenghi's talking heads that we got different characters, because it seemed like they'd established it was them 2, and all of a sudden now Matt Berry's shown up as well.
He only appears in 2 of them, this one and the finale.
Ah, okay.
So we open up in the hospital, and for some reason Rick just pulls a teddy bear from the locker. And the water is green, and Sanch drinks from it, and he just turns into an ape.
What kind of shit doctor drinks green water?
Well, it's the fact that they just don't recognize it.
They just don't look at it at all. Yeah.
So Rick is like walking to the kid's sick ward again with the said teddy bear, and one of the things he said, this place was dark, damn dark, hence Darkplace. He walks in, and then he gives the kid the teddy bear. The kid's like to him, "I owe you everything."
And he gives the kid a prescription out of his own money. And it's that like hero complex thing again.
Yeah. And then Dean said in an interview, "I punched one of the child actors on set."
Because he said something about Garth's writing, right?
Yeah. So we cut to Garth about to almost drink the water, but he gets pulled in for a meeting in Fulton's office.
No, that's not how it goes down to him. He stops short before he gets called. So it's like badly acted. So he goes to drink, stops, and then probably a clear second and a half later, someone goes, hey, Rick. And he's like, oh. And he puts the water
Yeah.
down.
Which is a running joke they kind of have with like a lot of things. It's like they
Mistiming
missed
the
the mark,
actors.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes in, and so Sanch and Liz have water, but Thornton and Rick have a coffee. So
And they really highlight it in a super hammy way. Like
Yeah.
close-ups on the drinks and stuff.
And so Rick is like talking about how Sanchez regressed to Homo erectus and they're still Homo sapiens. And then Thornton says, since we're all basically homos, shouldn't we get along?
and then Thornton says, come on, you two queers. So, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know where he's coming from.
And as that's happening, Liz now becomes an ape.
She's even more ape-like than anyone else because she like goes down on like a chimpanzee,
Yeah.
like, holding Rick's hand, and she's like crunched down on the floor.
I think it's implied because she's a woman, it affects her faster.
Yeah, I assume that's the idea.
So this is when so Rick and Liz go to see the priest because they think he'll have an idea what's going on. But this is when we get talking head of Todd, and he's saying he thinks the makeup still holds up 20 years later.
The makeup's fucking awful. It's
It's
good.
horrendous. So they go to see the priest, and he's there acting suspiciously. It's like, can I offer you a drink? And Todd's like, not Todd. Rick is like, Arson was like, no, it's mine.
Suggesting that the priest knows something about the water.
Yeah.
Very protective of the water.
But as Rick leaves, you see the priest smiling. You see like he has the monkey teeth, so already he's become a monkey.
It's not on the outside yet.
Not on the outside. On the inside, where it counts. We see that Sanch was doing surgery, but killed a patient. And he comes and goes, not my fault, monkey bastard hands. We have another talking head of Dean and Todd talking about their party days. And how they would go and paint the town red. And Todd says, I've stood in Dean's room and watched him make a lot of love.
Oh, so gross.
Yeah. Sanj and...
I was going to say there, Sanchez says to Rick, like, put him down if he goes too far. And then Rick says he will. And then as he turns around, Sanchez just clubs him over the head.
Yeah, he just has a club somehow.
Yeah.
And then, so Rick has a dream where he's in the forest, like, I look to the left, I look to the right, and I looked left, I looked right. Then I saw me as a monkey.
And then he sees Reed coming at him with a bunch of nurses that are all now monkeys.
Yeah. And then he wakes up, he turns out he's been asleep for a month. Like, the monkeys have taken over. There's like monkeys with like guns and military uniform.
I wonder what this one was inspired by. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius.
So this is where Thornton says that the clan rejected Liz. When he found her, she was like beaten almost half to death.
He's not even just about her being a woman anymore. They're just horrible to Liz.
Yeah. So Thornton's like, I'm so stressed, I'm going to make a water. So he pours like a sip of water, puts an ice cube in, spritzes it, puts a little umbrella in it, then he finally has a sip.
A little bit of lemon, lovely.
And then he goes, I have an idea. We should market this. Think about it. We're making more money than ever because they literally get paid in peanuts. Think about it. The Rick Douglas Memorial Award. It's what we dreamed of. He goes, you'd be a fool to walk away from this. A fool, a flipping fool.
I love that, the NHS doctors still work for peanuts. Hey.
Yeah.
So depressing.
Yeah. So this is when Douglas had like a little like thought. He goes, the water. I haven't had a sip of water. Wait a minute, it is the water.
They're thinking like the ADR voice, internal voice, still taking so long to figure it out. And what is the first thing he does when he figures it out is get his gun out.
Yeah. And what I love is Reed goes, like, thank God I only took a tiny sip. That's why I'm still fine. And then it does a talking head when Reed goes, the only reason Reed survived is because he took a sip, which is why we explicitly said he only took a sip.
Yeah, which somehow makes him more immune than everyone else because it was a sip.
And then we get, again, one of the most iconic lines in the show, which is, I know writers who use subtext, and they're cowards. Every single one of them. It's like,
say absolutely everything you mean.
It's like, this is why I want to talk about how nurses are literally paid in peanuts. So Rick goes down to the storage room to see what's happening with the water supply.
It's water storage and mirrors. So it's like a fucking hall of mirrors as well.
And I love how you see in the mirror, you see the cameraman.
Yeah, it's so good.
And he sees the leader of the apes peeing into the water supply, being held by Sanch, and like bits of the pee goes on Sanch's face. Just yes,
getting a full golden shower. And
I said it earlier. It's Noel Fielding playing the head ape.
So yeah, I realised this just from the noises he was making. Noel's got such a distinctive set of grunts he does.
Because he's just talking gibberish the entire time in this.
I knew it was him straight away. It was
So Rick accidentally knocks down a water jug, and it causes the head ape to run away and Sanch to attack Rick. And Rick just pulls out the gun and shoots the boxes that just falls on Sanch.
Yeah, these clearly empty boxes fall all on Sanch.
Yeah, and it just knocks him out. And then we just have a very intense bike chase through the woods. And when I say bikes, I mean bicycles.
They're on old-fashioned chopper push bikes from the 80s. And what's really great is there's the noise of motorbikes over the top.
Yeah. And what I love is they're cycling through the woods, and then Fulton joins in, and then they're on a green screen.
Yeah, and they cut between the green screen when they're having a chat to back to the actual shots, back to the green screen. It's so good.
And what I love is with Rick, there's a moment we see him as an obvious stuntman.
Oh yeah, when he's driving between the trees through the woods. Yeah,
to imply it's so dangerous they need a stuntman for this.
I also love that they do a weave through the trees, like dogs at Crufts.
Yeah.
And as they finish their chase, they do a jump, and then they get off on foot, and they start doing an assault course. There's a trampoline and monkey bars.
Yeah. And while off the monkey bars, you can clearly tell they're walking on the ground.
So funny. Rick crashes Noel through a tower of boxes.
Yeah, of water jug boxes.
Because they clearly had a load of them around.
Yeah. And then Rick goes, I'm sweating now. And then it cuts to a talking head of Garth talking about how antiperspirants can clog you up. And if you have too much antiperspirants everywhere, it will clog up the system and cause cancer.
Yeah, he says if you do your armpits, it'll come out your arse. And they're
basically, if you keep clogging all your body up with antiperspirant, you're going to cause yourself to get cancer, apparently.
And all that says is Garth Marenghi stinks, I'm telling you.
Yeah. And so they do a sped up explanation of how this was a scientist who became obsessed with apes and wanted to revert everyone back to their normal selves.
Have you got it written down? Because I've got it written down.
Go ahead.
I love this bit of exposition. Because he's proper, he doesn't do subtext at all. So at first I was like, oh, they're all back in the office now. How are they back to normal? And then they cram all this exposition in. I think they probably read it and then even sped it up.
Yeah, they sped up Garth talking, yeah.
Yeah, and then they do it over shots. Maybe it looked unnatural, but there's a shot of the tannoy speaker. Then there's a shot of a plant. They cut between the two while this explanation's going. And he says... And then I think it's Reed says, give us a detailed explanation. That's my Richard Iwode. I hope you like it. And then Rick says, he was once a scientist who specialised in human evolution. He discovered he could access mankind's atavistic tendencies, use them for malevolent schemes. He developed a serum extracted from gibbons' gonads, passed through chimps' balls at light speed. It turns men into monkeys. He contaminated our water. I developed an antidote so everyone's normal. Another hero complex thing. Thankfully, he didn't succeed. He saw the beast in us, or we saw the beast in us. Fucking. And that so funny and such a quick explanation. This had the opposite problem of the other one. They had too much, so they sped it up.
What it clearly reads off is basically he had to write down post because he realized, oh, I didn't actually put it in the actually film myself talking about it.
There's no film of the actual scene. Yeah, so funny. They all do like that awkward laugh that they've done before we get
laughter, the ha ha ha.
Before we get Garth on the roof. And this is where we find out from a talking head, I think it's talking head, that the in-world actor who plays Liz is missing, presumed dead.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a tangent we didn't know we needed.
And I love how Dean describes her as a zoo in a woman.
Oh.
And the credits is just her test footage.
Yeah, as if like in memoriam.
It's so dark. Because you like even in like the whole universe, like in like book tours and everything, they've never explained what's happened to her.
No.
She is presumed dead.
Oh, that's so good. I hope like if they brings the character back in say like 2030, it finds out that like the guy who was playing like Richard Iwode's character actually like kept a fucking hostage or something.
God, that'd be so dark.
But he's already, put out his thoughts on women and hypnotizing them. So
Yeah, that's true. So now we're on to the final episode, The Creeping Moss from the Shores of Shaggoth.
You enjoyed saying this when you were saying which episodes we were going to watch last time. See it on your face.
Because it's just like a long title, because it's very cringy King.
It's Fall Out Boy song titles, isn't it?
So Garth says he loves the great tragedies, King Lear, The Poseidon Adventure, Superman 2.
And then we get some of his he reads some of his erotica as well.
Yeah. Fun fact about his book, because it's inspired by Hellraiser, and the way he does it is it has explicit sex scenes in it, but because so if you're on public transport for decency, it will have like a little bit where it goes, go to this page at the end of the book to read the sex scene.
Very clever. I like that.
So a green mist is appearing over the hospital, and a patient is brought in, and the guard just leaves her right in front of the air vent because he needs to go to the toilet. And as this is happening, the green mist just infects her. The guard comes out and he lets out a blood-curdling scream because he forgot to flush.
Yeah, he realizes he forgot to flush. And then by the time he comes back, one of her fingernails has gone like green, powdery coloured.
Yeah. So in a talking head, Garth says this was based off a sonnet that he wrote when he was 16 years old. Dean says Garth is the most significant artist I've ever worked with, and I've worked with Lulu and 4 other people. So we're talking creme de la creme here.
Hey man, that feels like a dig at Lulu. I'm not having it.
She wrote Man with the Golden Gun, one of the greatest Bond songs of all time.
Rick ponders if the gas that's outside is the same one that come through the vent.
Yeah.
And then they're in the car, aren't they? And they have a chat about food. It's like proper Pulp Fiction style, just like 60 seconds of talking about food for no real reason.
Well, there's the first bit in the monologue where he's driving and going, I gave Sandra and Liz a rice and they haven't thanked me yet. Not that I needed it. He just turns round to Sandra and goes, You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah, proper passive-aggressive British stuff. I love doing that shit. Rick says he's going to get a Wimpy, which I agree with. The Wimpy veggie burger is lovely.
I love Wimpies.
Yeah, so good. So good. We are officially a Wimpy podcast. Let's hear it.
Wimpies, we know you don't have the money, so you can sponsor us. We're really cheap.
Yeah. Or just, give us one free lunch a week. Oh, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sanch asks Liz out, but she says no. But then she asks Rick out.
No, it's the other way around. She asked Rick
So,
out because
oh, that's it. Sorry, yeah.
because Rick is asking her, oh, what she got planned for dinner. It's like, oh, I don't, like, oh, why you? She's like, no, I just don't know what to do. And then Sanj goes, I'm free, Liz, if you want to go out. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm washing my hair and I've got a
What
headache.
what I love is that bad writing thing of like, oh, these two actually maybe like will develop some kind of like neither of these crushes have been highlighted at all before. But
Yeah,
obviously, in character, Garth Marenghi is going to decide that Liz fancies him.
yeah. So then it just becomes a music video, and the first thing that Sanchez like, I wish I was more attractive like Douglas.
And then he does a whole ballad about Liz before
Yeah.
being woken up by Reed in the car and like back to the real world.
What's funny is there's an extended version of the song on here.
Oh, I bet there is.
Oh, it's so good. Because Matt Berry just has an amazing singing voice. Like, have you heard any of his albums?
Yes, I've listened to his albums. He's ridiculous. Like his voice control is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like what is it? Toast of London and stuff when he does those VOs and his voice is so booming and
Have you listened to the because he does like a Toast of London autobiography and he does the audiobook for it?
oh, I haven't listened to that. No.
Oh, it's amazing. It's called Toast on Toast.
Gonna have to
Highly
listen to that.
recommend it.
Yes.
So they go to meet the patient who has been infected, and Sanj is immediately in love. And Garth says it can happen like that, you know. Love at first sight is a real thing.
Then Reese says I got into medicine for the pussy, which dried up 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But fucking hell. This fucking show.
There's also a bit where so Sanj is like telling Liz to shut up because she's making fun of the woman, and and Rick says to her, "No, you shut your mouth, Sanj. That was funny. Look, if we all lose our sense of humor, we might as well go and kill ourselves."
I mean,
And then like Liz has like dark like makeup, like crime makeup.
Rick says that what's caused the green mist is cosmic spores, and that apparently she's turning into broccoli. He does like a taste.
Yeah.
I think he's taking a skin sample and looking at it under a microscope, and then he tastes it. He says it's broccoli.
And the DNA is just literally a tiny broccoli.
Yeah, so.
And he calls like a scientist where he say, is it possible that someone could be infected by the mist outside? He goes, only if they were sat next to a vent for a period of time. He goes,
No,
oh,
not
interesting.
outside, just a vent.
Yeah. And he goes, thank you, I owe you a beer. Actually, no, you owe me one, so I quit.
So we're quits. We're square.
Yeah.
Sanch serves the patient egg in a
Yeah.
tomato soup with a pork pie, which is what he
Yeah.
offered Liz earlier, but it looks fucking disgusting.
It honestly does. So then they have sex, and we have the talking head where this is the first time you see Dean and Garth sat next to each other. And they say the three words you can't write in a sex scene when you're a horror writer, which is balls, knickers, and scrote.
Because they're just not sexy.
They're not sexy at all.
Rick,
So-
back in the actual scene, Rick posits that the broccoli must have come from space, and he says it could probably be passed on via sex. And when he realizes that Sanchez had sex with her, he's like, it'll be rumpled in a week.
Yeah. So she asks him, have you ever done that with a patient before? He goes, once or twice, but they were dying and it was their last wish. This is when we find out her name's, it's like, but I don't even know your name. It's like my name's Dr. Rick Sanchez. No, wait. That's not Rick.
Lucian Sanchez.
Lucian. Dr. Lucian Sanchez.
Garth, then we got to a talking head where he says the cosmic spores represent AIDS. And like, oh yeah, here we go, more nail on the head stuff.
And Dean just goes, back then, no one would touch this subject.
It was us and Princess Di. Is what he says.
Honestly. So Rick goes to talk to the priest. So basically saying he has to tell Sanch that they have to put her down.
This is where you get more of his hero complex, because the vicar does a line where he's like, Rick, you're more sensitive than God.
Yeah. And then once that priest tells him, this is what you got to do, he goes, I know I'd be right.
The next scene is so good because it
No,
starts.
there's one more. There's one
Sorry,
more
go on.
line when Rick is leaving and the priest goes, "Stay holy."
And then puts it, yeah. The next scene starts before the actors do, which is so
Yeah.
funny. There's like a second and a half where they just stood still before they start walking. Then someone actually walks off of the like off of the framing as well.
Yeah. So Rick tells Sanj, like, he's like, "Oh, how do I tell Sanj the bad news?" And he goes, "Linda wants to break up with you, and the sex was meaningless."
So that's a lie. And they start having like this really bad, fully choreographed fight until Reed comes in blasting his shotgun again.
Yeah, he goes, "Shh, stop! Like, knock it off, you two. This is a hospital."
And there's two things about that. He's firing that gun into the ceiling in a hospital. And two, there's a fucking bar in the hospital. Why is there a bar in the hospital?
So they say, Fortin says to Sanj, "I've been there, hombre. When my wife died, I could barely finish my lunch." Sanj tells him like his dick is olive green. So they tell him they have to chop it off so they don't risk contamination. And Fortin says, "I'd offer you mine if I could."
They say they have to boil the patient to try and save her as well.
Yeah. So the next few scenes are missing because the reel is gone. So they have to show what happens through behind the scene photos and narrations.
That were taken by the cast's girlfriends, apparently.
Yeah. So one of the cast members' girlfriends.
I wonder if this was inspired by, one, obviously, to do another fight scene or whatever, but two, like, is it inspired by things like the Doctor Who missing stuff?
That's what came to mind for me, because like, for those who aren't unaware, there are many classic Doctor Who episodes that you're never going to see the full thing of in live action because they didn't think to preserve those reels.
I've heard rumours that is a Canadian bloke who's got lots of them that he's refused to give to the BBC, quote unquote.
So it's only one, and it's the first episode, Unearthed Child, because his grandfather.
No, the Unearthly Child's that's complete. I've watched it.
It's on iPlayer though. No, because he's refusing to let BBC put on iPlayer now, because he finds Doctor Who to be too woke.
Oh, what a wanker! You can find it on. I think I watched it on YouTube once back in the day. You can find it for sure. You can definitely buy the DVD as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I heard tell that actually the BBC have got a few of them, but because they'd started these animated ones, they're like, buy the animated ones, and in like 10 years we'll randomly release the
bastards. And the thing is, people will do it.
Oh, yeah, they will. I don't know if that's true or not. The disclaimer. I think it was on a YouTube video. Someone had accused him of that.
No. Bobby said it. It's a fact. It's a fact. He said this. You can quote Bobby Davis.
Fuck off, Tim.
So during these behind the scenes photos, Fortin and Rick.
I'm really glad you heard that.
Yeah, Fortin and Reed, fifth time now, knock out Sanj, and they take him into surgery and chop off his dick as Linda's condition worsens. So basically, Sanj is dickless now. But once we're back to actual footage, we see that Linda's head is like just a giant broccoli now. It's all green.
And then you get something that a doctor would never do, where Rick goes, "Just go to sleep. You'll be better when you wake up." And then she dies.
Yeah, he tells her like, "You'll go to sleep and you'll wake up. You'll be all better. Sanj will be there. He loves you, and
definitely has a dick."
Yeah. So she gives Linda gives Douglas the wind chime to give to Sanj, and he goes, it's a dream catcher. He goes, "What's a dream catcher?" Linda goes, "It's like a wind chime." "Then why do you say wind chime?" And he goes, "Thank you. Sanj loves the sound of wind."
When she dies, they actually get something right here. So when someone dies and they're attached to a heart monitor, the monitor goes silent. It doesn't bleep. So the bleeps are to indicate
noise is for power, right?
Yeah, the bleeps are to indicate that the heart is going. So it's bleep for every heartbeat. When there's no heartbeat, it just goes silent.
Yeah,
and that's what like a lot of medical drugs.
It
sounds more dramatic to have the bleep, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
not right.
apparently that flatline noise is just representing the power's dying on it, so emergency change the battery.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So after Linda dies, the chefs are there ready to take her away, and Stephen Merchant's there, so he lived.
Oh, he made it. He made it.
So we cut to Rick in a children's ward again, and he goes to the mum. He's a good kid, but you got to keep him off the smack, otherwise this will keep happening. How about you find yourself a husband and get some stability in your life?
Just like right at the end of the series, they had to add another misogynistic line, didn't they? Just had to.
So Rick sees Sandra in the hallway, just looking depressed. He goes up to him and is like, I will not rest until I find you an adequate replacement. Rick tries to give Sanj the dream catcher, but he's like, no, you keep it. Rick walks away. He stops prematurely before Sanj goes, wait.
Oh, the mistiming again. So good.
And that's when he finally says, thanks for that lift.
Yeah, from the beginning of the episode. So funny. When Rick's pondering on the roof again, did you notice that the Dreamcatcher / wind chimes are up there?
Yeah. And then he also just ends that monologue of going, no one wants AIDS. So then we have like a nice little like final like talking head from like the three main people. Garth says, with the show, I wanted people to laugh and cry and shit themselves all at the same time. Dean says, we are seeing the dumbing down of television. And Todd just goes, you and he were buddies, weren't you? Need I say more? And that was Garth Marenghi's Darkplace.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was very funny. I love the idea of him being so deluded that he doesn't realise that it was never put on because it was shit.
Yeah. So, fun fact, this show obviously didn't get season 2, but it did get a spin-off.
Oh, yeah?
Dean Lerner talk show.
Oh, fuck's sake.
And the first episode was Garth Marenghi.
Obviously, yeah. Why would you not bring that character back?
But it's actually, because I only found out about this while I was doing research for this episode. But, yeah, I can't find an episode of it anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and scavenge for it. I'm gonna like check like Internet Archive and everything, and if I find it, I will link
let me know.
it, because if it's on Internet Archive, it's free for everyone to watch.
I have a feeling that they're telling you this thing exists and it doesn't, because it just feels like another level of troll from fucking the writers.
I would believe that, but it did say written by Richard R. Waddy. It wasn't like written by Dean Lerner. So in canon, in reality, in shoot, it exists.
Still don't put it past them, dude. Still don't put it past them.
But I'm glad you like the show, because honestly, I just think it's like the right level of ridiculousness. It's very like that quintessential like British humor where it just makes fun of everything, and I think because it's making fun of American like comedy and like drama as well.
Yeah, I'd say actually, in terms of America, it hits the drama more. And then in terms of the pastiche of British stuff, it hits the comedy more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good, really funny, and available entirely for free on 4 on demand. So go watch it.
Which is fine because obviously I had the DVD, but before I had this DVD, because this was a birthday present, I bought the entire season on Amazon Prime because it was only £2 at the time.
Oh, nice.
Because I didn't realise it was on 4OD, because I thought, wow, this is very old school, and 4OD is very hit and miss sometimes, like especially like 5 years ago.
Yeah, a bit of a nonchalant thing. I used to own well over, I don't know how many, but thousands of DVDs, right? I used to work in a shop that sold them, got a discount, whatever, and I gave half of them away to charity when I moved house. And there's a part of me that's fucking regretting it, because I'm like, actually, I'd love to have my physical library back, because stuff being moved on and off streaming services is actually doing my fucking head in.
Genuinely, because do you know right now there's no legal way to watch 28 Days Later
without obviously a DVD? That's
Yeah. So it's not on any streaming services, but even DVD, not for no new releases, so it had to be secondhand.
You'd have to go visit your local CEX.
Yeah, or charity shop if you're lucky.
Yeah, fucking hell. Yeah, it's starting to do my head in, and I am regretting it. You're like, there'll be, in a few months you'll see like this wall of guitars and kicks will turn into a wall of DVDs where I'm like rebuying.
Well, literally right next to me, I have my shelf of Blu-rays.
Your bookshelf, yes. Speaking of what's coming up, speaking of Blu-rays, I'm going to show you what's coming up next. I've got it here, my Blu-ray.
Oh,
Ready?
okay, because I have one too ready to show you.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go. No, not that one. Not that piece of shit. Original Space Jam with MJ, with this guy, the fucking
With
man.
LeBron James.
Hey, LeBron's great. He's not MJ. He's not MJ. This guy. Hang on.
Can I point out, I got this brand new for £3.
Is it a steelbook as well?
Here's a steelbook.
Let's go. Fucking. Let's do this. Next episode, for those who aren't watching, I think I said Space Jam. We're going to do the original, better Space Jam, Timothy. The 1996, the 1996 original Space Jam. Here on my Blu-ray, check it out. There's Bill Murray. Yeah, there he is. Look, but there is the man, Michael Jordan. There is Lola Bunny, the original one.
So can you just turn the cover back around again? I hate that cover. I prefer the original like VHS one where it's like the ensemble crew.
I think I've got my VHS still. I think it's in my loft. And if I can find it, I will have it ready for the next episode to show everyone.
Yeah, because that cover I find to be iconic. Because we'll discuss that in the next episode, actually.
Yeah,
we'll talk about away.
Yes, we'll talk about it in the next episode. Also, in the next episode, we've got some news to share, but we'll share it in the next episode.
Yes.
Things
are happening.
Yes. Or not happening.
I'm pregnant. No.
Yeah. And he doesn't know who the father is. No surprise. Three
is it
kids
David
by
Francisco? Is it Jordan Said?
3 kids by 5 dads over here. Come on. You've never heard that one before, have you?
I'll be honest. I was trying to think who else should I name.
That's a very old misogynistic joke about single mums. Like, it's not very nice.
Kerry Katona.
Oh yeah.
That's a deep cut British reference.
Yes, considering over a third of our listeners are American. Yeah.
All right, Bobby. Before we get even more deep cut references, where can they find you on the social?
B.Davies_creative on pretty much everything. Well, not pretty much everything. Mostly Instagram and the Twitter, but also I do have a TikTok, which is just the videos from my Instagram posted on TikTok. So, don't feel the need to follow that one. Which I also was like really determined to put content out on, and I did like 7 videos or something, and then haven't done one for like a month.
And you can find me on all the socials at the Tim Martini. I mainly just post takes about Oasis returning and
who gives a shit?
A lot of posh twats.
Just a lot of twats. You don't need the word posh in that. I may have had some banter with RJ Singh on the old interweb about it.
And I also then just promote music and then maybe make fun of Jordan Said for being a royal guard for Sasha Banks at All In.
So weird. How did he get that? He doesn't deserve that. No, I'm joking, Jordan. I love you.
We love you, Jordan. We love you, you piece of shit. And you can follow the podcast at CC Society Pod or Cult Classic Society on every socials. If you're listening to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, give us a rating. It really does help out. If you're on YouTube and you watch us but you haven't subscribed yet, what the hell are you doing? Hit that subscribe button.
At least give the video a like. Come on.
Yeah, give us a like.
Don't be stingy. It costs you nothing. Costs you nothing.
Yeah, and if you're subscribed, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new episode comes out. Yes, we do have a schedule. It's every 2 weeks, but sometimes you get busy. You might forget. Stay on top of it.
I forget. That's why we edit with 5 days.
Like, oh, yeah, we have a podcast. Well, I've been Tim Martini.
Tim, with this podcast, I wanted to make people laugh and cry and shit themselves at the same time. And we're seeing the end of quality in podcasts. And you know what? We take that for granted. And I think it's time for a change.
I agree, you know. And I think a lot of like podcasters, they use subtext when they talk about what they talk about, and I think they're counts for doing that.
Oh my God! Tim joined in with an end of episode joke. Yes, he got the last one wrong. He couldn't deliver a Keenan and Kel line, but you know, let's trust him to find something in his own thing that he wanted to watch.
It finally happened.
Oh, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Need I say more? Need I say more?